Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. So you said earlier that the word child is colloquial based on the fact that it assigns a subjective value based on like a defined time frame. In this case, like birth, where you have a fetus in the womb and outside of the womb. And you said that the word child is just like you said that it's kind of a game of semantics in the fact that it's assigning more value depending on time frame. But then you also
I don't
subscribe
think
to
it
the idea
assigns
of
moral
life.
value.
So you use the term child. You use the term child without any weight. Like you don't think there's any moral distinction.
I mean, I don't think a child define calling someone the word child doesn't assign it any value. I think that, but the word child, like colloquially, just means like a human being, a human offspring that's
But
under
yeah,
the legal age, right? That's how I
but
define child.
calling something life assigns value. Yeah.
Not necessarily. I could just call bacteria life, and that doesn't assign it any value.
But calling it human life assigns it value.
I don't think that's what assigns it value, but I think when you're referring to human life, there's like an intuition there that's just like this is a morally valuable thing,
Yeah. I mean, you were saying life begins at conception. So
right? And it
what is
does.
the
Do you
purpose of
agree?
that statement if it's in an abortion argument?
It's to provide that if we come to the conclusion that human life is going to be valuable, then we know human beings become alive and a
Hmm.
thing at the moment of conception. Thank you for the gifts, bro. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
At the moment of conception, then it's going to be more than permissible to unalive this thing. Like if an
So
abortion, just let me clarify my position. If an
yeah.
abortion was killing bacteria or bugs, then abortion needs no justification because those are not morally valuable things. But however, an abortion results in the termination of human life, which we believe is valuable, then abortion cannot be justified because it's
Yeah.
killing a human being.
So interesting. Well, before you have conception, you have two haploid gametes, which are the compositories of the DNA in the quote human life after conception. So you don't assign any more value to the two haploid gametes that are combined to form the quote human life.
I think you're conflating active and passive potential, right? So a
Hmm.
sperm cell on its own is not
Yeah.
going to be morally valuable because it has passive potential to become a human life, but actively it does not. Right on its own, it's not going to become human life. However, same thing with an egg, right? But when they
Hmm.
combine, you no longer sperm and egg cease to exist. You now have a single cell zygote. This is now active potential to have a flow, a future like ours, and it's going to be morally valuable.
Well, the sperm on its own, if you're making the argument that the requirement of an egg means that the sperm doesn't innately have a passive potential, then I think that's a slippery
No, it does
argument.
have a passive potential,
Oh, I see. I see. All right. So I was also wondering.
just
You
not an
mentioned
active potential.
oh, I see. I see. I see.
No.
I was also wondering with the so like there are examples of the state not forcing people to subsidize the life of another person. Like for example, like kidney donors, bone marrow transplants.
Right.
So if someone you gave up the blood transfusion example, which I think is good, and you said you don't have the right to shoot them, but you
Right.
have the right to stop giving them blood. Do you think
Uh,
that's
yeah, I think it depends on what kind of obligation you have to this person.
yeah?
I think if you had some like consensual agreement to this obligation, then you shouldn't be able to unplug from them. Like I'm sure you know about the violinist reductio.
Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
don't.
Oh, okay. So it's like a pro choice argument that's like, hey, you're hooked up to the world's famous violinist through like a blood transfusion. You got to be hooked
Mhm.
up to him for 9 months. If you unplug, is it justifiable to do so? Most people would say, yeah, it's justifiable to do so to unplug, because he doesn't have a right to your organs, and so they try to use that as a justification for abortion. However,
Yeah.
it fails to it fails to provide an analogous obligation that a mother has to her child, because I believe parents have a special obligation to their children.
Hmm.
Meanwhile, I don't have an obligation to some random violinist in the world.
Yeah. Well, like my stance personally on abortion is that it's generally immoral, but I don't think it should be illegalized. Is how I see it.
Do you want to give me
And
your
that
position?
yeah. So I believe that abortion should be legal until 6 weeks, but I think it is immoral in most cases, and that it's the termination of a human life. But then we also have examples of the government, subsidizing stopping artificial support of life,
Just to be clear on your position, you have a cutoff at 6 weeks for what reason?
due to active neural connections.
Active neural connections, and what connections would that be?
You see brainwaves, heartbeat. I think
Okay, brainwaves and heartbeat at 6 weeks, and you
yeah,
believe that these two are necessary conditions for moral consideration.
not for moral consideration, but for legality. I think that what I think is that um, I think abortion should be legalized up until 6 weeks, but it's on the basis that if we start allowing them towards like third trimester, for example, then you start losing you have moral degradation within a society.
Yeah, hang on, just really quickly, like without appealing to legality. We don't have to talk about the pragmatics of whether it should be legal or not. I'm more interested in talking about the morality of abortion. You
Uh,
believe abortion is morally permissible because it doesn't have a heartbeat, doesn't have any neurons firing. Is that what you said?
yeah.
Okay. Um, yeah, and I guess why are these necessary for the value?
Because I think that if you start prioritizing the interests of something that is like at that initial phase is literally has very little distinction between that of unicellular organisms, and when you start prioritizing that over the interests of women who are often in some of the most dire of circumstances, then I think there's some you can make that moral argument, but then I think you also have to live in the real world.
Well, you'd have to like establish what dire circumstances you're talking about. If you're talking about like the in fear of being unalive, that's a different story. Typically, when I'm talking about abortion, I'm talking about elective abortions. So I'm saying like a healthy mom, healthy baby, baby was consensually conceived. In these cases, I think abortion is never going to be justifiable because I think that human beings are we're not valuable by what we have, and we're not valuable by what we can do, but we're valuable by what we are, right? And so I believe that when a being has a future like ours, full of hopes, desires, dreams, wishes, that's part of the Homo genus or the Homo sapiens species. We should protect this life, and we know this begins from conception forward.
But
So
what
um,
is the why can't I mean you can say that it's a life, but how can you morally like you go through the steps of justifying why you necessarily have to protect this form of life to such an extent that don't prioritize its existence of life over the could be futile interests of the woman.
Well, that's not actually the pro-life position, right? The pro-life position isn't that we should value this entity more than the life of the mother.
Not more,
The,
but it's that not that you're valuing its actual interests more, but you're valuing the life of the fetus more than the interests of the woman. That's what
yeah,
I'm saying.
so the whole pro-life position, to be clear, is that we should treat human beings inside the womb the same way that we treat human beings outside the womb, because that is what they are. So, in the cases where a mother has a 1 year old child outside the womb,
Yeah.
if it in a hypothetical situation, if it were in the mother's best interest to unalive her 1 year old child because of financial restrictions or time, you and I can both agree that's going to be morally wrong, and the law would reflect that. So, in the same way that if we want to treat these human beings the same way inside the womb versus
Yeah.
outside the womb, we believe it's morally permissible for a mother to unalive her a child in an abortion due to personal interest. And
Hmm.
that way, it's just our
But
stance is
I
consistent.
mean, what distinguishes it moral consideration when it's at the stage of unicellularity in
Again,
your eyes?
a single celled zygote. Yeah, good question. A single celled zygote is, again, it comes down to what is this being, right? What is it? It's part of the homogeneous and it's alive. Therefore, it's a human. And we believe humans are innately valuable. And that's what the
Hey, yeah.
Christian, the pro-life response to that human beings are inherently valuable. And so, even though it's unicellular, it's going to have a future like you and I. And that's what's valuable. And killing it
If
is
humans
depriving
are
of that
in
being is depriving that being of future experiences, and that's why it's going to be morally inadmissible.
yeah. So you believe human life is more valuable than anything monetary in our world, right?
Yeah.
So if a
Yeah.
robber
Do you
came to
agree?
your home and was going to steal all your life, well, I have a follow up question. If a robber came into your home and was going to steal your life earnings, you have the right to shoot them, right? Is that morally justifiable, even though they're not threatening your life? They're just threatening your life earnings.
I would say no, that's not justifiable. I would say that it's permissible to, if they are endangering your life while they broke into your home. Yeah, it's justifiable to unalive them, because I don't know if you're
Yeah.
familiar with the principle of double effect, but like in that case, it would be justifiable. However, in the cases of someone breaking in and they only want your money, all your life savings, and
Mhm.
you're at no threat of your life being taken, then no, you should not unalive them. However, it
Mhm.
doesn't make sense. Why would it's not possible for you to not be at threat of your life and give him all your money? Like, why would you just randomly give him all your money if your
Well,
life
it's
is
a
not
yeah,
in
it's a
stake?
hypothetical. But
It doesn't make
yeah, how
sense.
about this? If 10 were in your house with guns, they were going to kill you. Do you have the right to
Hmm.
kill all 10 of them?
100%.
But that means that you're valuing one life over the lives of tens, which means you.
It's not about
I feel like that's kind of inconsistent.
it's not inconsistent at all because
If
we believe we all have the negative right to life. So to say that we have the negative right to life is that, hey, no one should infringe upon this right by trying to unalive us. And if it were the case that someone is trying to infringe upon our negative right to life, then we have the right to defend ourselves to sustain our own life. And if the necessary condition of sustaining your own life is unaliving 10 people who are trying to unalive you, then it's going to be morally justifiable. Again, this plays into the principle of double effect.
yeah, but if there's but there are 9 lives, and you said human life is innately valuable, and so you'd be ending a human life. You'd be ending 9 human lives to end one instead of ending one life. But
Sure, obviously, it's unfortunate that you're unaliving human beings, but it's justifiable and necessary if you want to sustain your own life.
if you want to sustain your own life, so I think that that argument in and of itself is, I think that you kind of then you the argument of just valuing human life on its own kind of falls apart because of the fact that you're now valuing your life over the lives of others.
Well,
See how that kind of gets slippery?
the the
I
the
think if
value of
9 people broke into my house, I would be allowed to kill all of them. But with your argument, you can't. Is what I'm saying. Is with your argument of valuing
not
innate
at
human
all.
life
No,
based on
that's
just the
not
fact that it's human life.
that doesn't follow at all, right? Like again, there's going to be justifiable reasons to have to unalive people. Like in the
Mm-hmm.
hypothetical you gave where people break in and they're threatening your life, it's justifiable to end their life. Sure, they have the same moral value as you and I, which is why it's a hard thing to unalive them because they have the same value as you. But in order to sustain your own life, you have to unalive them. Then it's necessary, right? It's justifiable, right? So placing your own personal value on something doesn't take away
Isn't that the sin of
its
pride?
objective value. It's not the sin of pride. No.
I mean, yeah, but anyways, hope you have a good one. I'm probably gonna go
Yeah,
now.
yeah. Thanks, Dodge.
All right. You
You're welcome
too.
back up anytime.
Yep.
What's good, Anthony?
What up, Truth? How are you, bro?